I'm Kara, sitting at the defense table in the courtroom, absent, mindedly running my fingers over the soft fabric of the blue sparrow scarf on my lap. Across the aisle, Brian and Laura were joking with their lawyer, already acting as if the $6 million they thought I'd inherited was theirs. They didn't recognize me at all. Suddenly, the bailiff's voice boomed. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Kara." Brian and Laura stood up, expecting a stranger, but I was the one ascending the steps to the bench. Their lawyer's smile faded instantly. "I look at all of you, and I want you to be the jury. If your parents tossed you aside like unwanted goods to line their own pockets, what would you do? Forgive them or make them pay? Drop your thoughts in your mind right now, and let me take you back to the events that led us here." It was 1998 at JFK International Airport. Terminal 2 was a whirlwind of activity. The buzz of people, the constant announcements, and the hum of conveyor belts were deafening. But I felt detached, like an island in the middle of a storm. I was 6 years old, wrapped in a blue sparrow scarf that my grandmother had given me. It was a bit too big and scratchy, but it was my comfort in the cold airport. Brian and Laura walked ahead of me, not bothering to hold my hand. They were impatient, checking their watches and speaking in hushed, urgent tones. They looked more like business goers in a rush than worried parents. Laura turned back and snapped, "Hurry up, Kara. You're dragging us down." They led me to the oversized luggage area. It was a vast, dimly lit place with a large carousel spitting out bags, skis, and bike boxes. The air smelled of jet fuel and old food. "Wait here, Kara," Brian said, pointing to a bench. "Watch the bags. We'll go get the tickets and come right back." "How long?" I asked in a small voice. "Just count to 800. By the time you finish, we'll be here," Laura replied, not even looking at me as she eyed the exit. I sat down and pulled the scarf closer, starting to count. One by one, the items on the carousel passed by. As I reached 200, the crowd thinned. When I hit 500, the carousel slowed to a stop. By 800, the place was empty. The silence was overwhelming, a heavy, suffocating force that seemed to press against my chest. It was then that I realized they weren't coming back. They saw me as a burden, something to be discarded. That silence stole my voice. For years after that night, I barely spoke, too afraid of the world around me. It took me a long time to turn that silence into a weapon. Now, as a judge, when the courtroom goes quiet waiting for my decision, I control it. But back then, it controlled me, telling me I was worthless. I don't know how long I sat there. Then a security guard on a scooter noticed me. Before he could say anything, a man in a brown suit stepped out from behind a column.
He had been watching for a while.
He was tall, with kind eyes behind thick, rimmed glasses. He looked more like a schoolteacher than a hero. "She's with me," the guard said, reaching for his radio to call social services. "No," the man said softly but firmly. He knelt in front of me, ignoring the dirty floor. "My name is Henry.
I saw what happened.
I'm sorry," he said. He didn't lie or give false hope. He told me the truth, and in that moment, he saved me from the lies I was trying to tell myself. Henry stayed with me until the police arrived, and then through the foster care process.
Eventually, he adopted me.
He was my rock, the one who showed me I was more than just a cast-off. Years passed, and Henry passed away quietly on a Sunday morning. There were no big fanfares, just a small service attended by the people at the local orphanage he had supported for years. When the will was read, I expected a simple house and a little savings. Instead, I learned Henry was a successful venture capitalist who had invested in some of the biggest tech startups of the 90s. He left me $6 million. The news spread, and within 2 days, I was served with a lawsuit at my home. Brian and Laura claimed that Henry had abducted me from the airport and that they had been searching for me for 20 years. They demanded the entire inheritance as compensation for their pain and the deed to Henry's house. I read the lawsuit not as a daughter, but as a judge. I saw through their lies. They saw me as an asset. When I was a child, I was a liability, so they got rid of me. Now that I was worth something, they wanted me back. I hired the best forensic accountant in the city. I told her to dig into their past. After days of poring over old records, we found something. In 1999, they had sued the airline claiming I had disappeared during an unaccompanied minor flight. They got a settlement of $600,000. But the real proof was the affidavit they signed, stating that I was presumed dead. The trial began. Brian and Laura played the part of grieving parents perfectly. They cried, they told stories of their pain. But I knew it was all an act. When it was our turn, we called one witness, Lily, my half-sister. Lily walked into the courtroom, looking tired and sad. She took the stand and began to speak. She told the court about growing up in a house where I was used as a tool. Whenever they needed money or sympathy, they would bring up my disappearance. The church gave them money, and neighbors brought food. I was a currency to them. Lily also showed the court a box full of casino receipts from the week I disappeared. While the police were looking for me, Brian and Laura were gambling. The courtroom fell silent, and I could see the truth hitting them like a ton of bricks. Then, my lawyer presented the 1999 settlement agreement and the affidavit. The judge read it and looked at Brian and Laura with disgust. You either committed fraud in 1999, or you're committing perjury now.
Which is it? She asked.
I stood up and walked towards them. You sold me, I said, my voice cold and steady. You declared me dead for money. Well, the girl you abandoned is gone. But a ghost can haunt you, and I will use every legal means to make sure you pay. The judge banged her gavel and dismissed the case with prejudice. Brian and Laura were taken into custody for further investigation. The aftermath was swift. They were indicted for perjury, and their reputation was in tatters. The community turned their backs on them. They lost everything. I didn't keep the inheritance for myself. I used it to start the Baggage Claim Foundation, which provides legal support to foster children. I want to make sure no child ever feels as alone as I did in that airport. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop in Manhattan. Across the table, Lily is smiling and laughing. She quit her job to work at the foundation. We're building a new relationship, free from the lies of our past. I look down at my scarf. It's not a shield anymore. It's just a part of me. And in the quiet beneath the noise of the coffee shop, I know that the debt has been paid, and I'm finally free.